took him to a musical not long ago. It was torture.
Literally, intentionally setting aside time to connect and invest in your marriage.
Outside our relationship with Christ, it's the number one best thing we do for our marriage.
Welcome to the Grace Marriage Podcast. I'm Brad Rhoads.
And I'm Marilyn Rhoads. We're here to help you build a marriage that's stronger, more connected, and full of grace.
I'm Rick Dayton, joining Brad and Marilyn as we bring you weekly conversations designed to inspire and equip you to live intentionally in your marriage.
We'll share practical tips, powerful stories, and strategies to help you and your spouse grow closer and thrive together.
So whether you're just starting out or have been married for years, there's always room to grow. Let's do this together. This is the Grace Marriage Podcast.
You're married. You've been married for a while, and maybe it's been a long time since you went on your date, but Brad and Marilyn Rhoads from Grace Marriage say that might be the worst thing for your marriage, to stop dating. I'm Rick Dayton. Thanks for jumping in. Hey, I want to ask you guys, how often do you date, despite the fact you've been married more than 25 years?
We date every single week.
Always?
Always.
Always. That's the one time you
Non-negotiable?
Absolutely.
We kind of put a stake in the ground.
I've been told not to speak in absolutes.
Right.
I learned that in episode 7.
We put a stake in the ground and just said, we're going to spend time together every week.
Where did you learn that? Where did that come from?
I had a mentor who had lunch with me every Thursday who said, you need to spend time with your wife every week. And I didn't listen to him, but he stayed on me until I said, okay. And I've done it ever since. And we've done it for 27 years.
Mm-hmm.
What quantifies as a date as opposed to simply going out to dinner? I mean, is there a difference between those two?
Look, going out to dinner can be a date. It's undistracted one-on-one time together. So you're not with other couples. You're not with your kids. It's just the two of you. So when I say date, it'd be more accurate to say just undistracted blocks of one-on-one time together for you to connect and for you to enjoy one another.
It is better to be away from the home. I know there are circumstances where that might not be practicable, and so you have to. But if you can, I do think a date is better if you can get outside your home environment.
For us, it's harder to relax and really connect in the home just because, there's laundry needs done. There's dishes. We haven't done this. So it's like when we try to do our dates in the home for us, we end up a little less focused on one another, a little more distracted. Now, could somebody potentially do it well in the home if nobody else is in there with them? I guess so, but it's just been a challenge for us.
One of our sons played college golf, and the golf team coach said to them that in reality, we don't have a lot of rules here on this team. Number one is that you are always on time. Number two was that you do not order dessert when we go out to eat. And number three was, I will absolutely, positively never see a cell phone at the table.
That's
wonderful. You enforce that? And no hats inside, but that was a thing that they should have known when they got there. But his point was, there will never be a cell phone at our table at any sort of team function. Do you address that when it comes to dating? Because it can be so ubiquitously. You walk into any place and you see both people sitting there at the table. They're both on their phone, not paying a bit of attention to the other person. I mean, it is everywhere in our lives. Do we have to say that at this point? Or do people know that and they do it? They don't do it? Help me with that.
It's gotten worse and worse. I mean, it's like being rude has become normal, which is really unfortunate. And so the phone is one of the largest barriers to deep relational connection anywhere. It is one of the enemies of marriage. It's one of the enemies of deep relationship, the enemies of really even intellectual growth, because we're so distracted by it. So it is a battle we have to fight constantly. For some, it's harder than others. For me, I'm worse on it than Marilyn. But
you're drawn to the phone more than Marilyn? Is that what you mean by that?
Well, she would say I am.
Is it true?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm drawn to mine as well. I mean, we both are.
Right.
But he's just a little more ADD. He distracts easier. So on our dates, we take my phone. And really, I don't know that we have to take it. We think we have to be
So you're saying
available
you
for
have a phone in
emergencies.
case something happens
In
and
case
somebody
there's
needs to
an
get in touch with you.
emergency. Yes.
Right.
And the person with the less of a cell phone problem that take their phone with them.
But it's for us, it's been a challenge that we need to overcome. Is On our dates, we will always take our kids' calls, even our adult kids. And it would be wiser if we didn't.
Yeah.
We just gotten into this perpetual availability thing, which I think is really bad for
Well,
relationships.
we can talk for years about the role that kids are playing in our marriages too. And maybe we need to just reserve an entire topic on what's going on with kids in our relationship.
Right.
I know that our kids are 28, 26, and 24, 3 sons. And I know that our oldest, when they went off to college, that they would try to have this issue that everybody, when they sat down and went out somewhere, that everybody put their phone in the middle of the table.
Yes.
The first person who touched their phone had to pay for everybody's food.
I love that. I love that.
And the reality was, these are all broke college kids. They have no money. And the reality is, then it meant that, 5 college baseball players sitting around, or 3 girls and 2 guys who were studying for a chemistry test. If anybody touched their phone, that person had to pay for everyone. Mm-hmm. And it's a real quick way to put a hurting on your wallet, and also to make sure that you connect with the other people.
One exercise we have done, and we ask people to do, is say, go around the table and ask each person in your family, do you think the cell phone is a problem for you, and why? And you can't say a word while they all talk. I did it and took a beating. I mean, they all kind of.
So the question is, what the question is again?
Do you think the cell phone is a problem and distraction for me from relationship?
Yeah.
And if you believe it is, tell me why you believe it is.
Yeah.
And then let each person go around the table and share. And you might be surprised what they say.
Yeah. So, Marilyn, what do you say to the issue of dating in terms of what it is that we need to be doing? What does a date look like for you? And is it different than for Brad?
Well, what we enjoy doing are different things. So we often do things that I like on a date, do things that he would like. But I want to say that outside our relationship with Christ, it's the number one best thing we do for our marriage. Dating.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Over the years, through the hard times, through the good times, we've had colicky babies, we've had health crisis. And it's something that keeps us from being 2 ships passing in the night. Mm-hmm. And it shows that our marriage is a priority. And it's okay to miss a kid's event to make our marriage a priority. It's actually good for them to see that. We have
good for your kids to see. Is that what you're saying?
It's great for our kids to see. We have 4 daughters, and they're watching me, and they're going to learn from how I love Brad, what it looks like to be married for a woman. And if he's not a priority, and I'm not dating him or spending time with him, I'm not being a good parent.
Do you tell your kids you're going on date night? Do you use that
Yes.
term?
Oh, absolutely.
So they know that. They know
Yes.
full well that.
Well, they have for 28 years. And
Right. That's all they've known then.
most of them,
Yeah.
and I would tell them, the best thing I can do for you as your dad is to love your mom well. And I said, so I'm going to date for 2 reasons. 1, to love your mom well, and 2, to preserve my sanity.
Not from getting away from the kids, but from loving your mom well. Right. So then, do you have certain ground rules as to what it needs to, and maybe I'm overthinking this, but can sitting on the back porch watching the sun go down be a date night? Mm-hmm. Can playing cards, can watching your favorite TV show together? I mean, we're empty nesters. Our kids are grown, 2 of them are married, so they live in 3 different states. So for us, it may be different than somebody who's got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old that you're trying to get to go to bed at 8 o'clock at night. I mean, are there hard and fast rules we need to look at?
It's intentionally setting aside time to connect and invest in your marriage, and to invest in just getting closer to one another. Mm-hmm. So if it's just sitting down, click on the TV, watching 2 hours of TV and going to bed, no.
Right.
If it's like tonight, let's watch the sunset and talk, go for a walk, come back and watch a 30-minute or 45-minute TV show for good. Yes, it's an intentional block where you decide we're going to connect and we're going to try to just enjoy time together.
Okay. Does it need to be planned out on Sunday that on Tuesday, this is what we're going to do? Or is it okay to have some spontaneity? I mean, because we had a pastor who counseled us 36 years ago that he said, you know what, Rick? He says, the things that you absolutely love about your wife right now are going to drive you crazy. And Jenny, the things that you think is so adorable about Rick, are going to drive you nuts. The fact that he's so spontaneous 35 years from now, he never plans anything. The fact that he is absolutely hilarious is, well, that person is just irreverent, right? I mean, that they don't necessarily, the things that you think are endearing later on bother you. So does it need to be something that you plan out? Does it work better if you plan it, or if you're just spontaneous? Or maybe it's both.
I think it's both. I do think it's better if you plan it, because if you wait to go and you're both spent and tired and you haven't planned anything, you're going to have the conversation. What do you want to do? Oh, I don't know. What do you want to do? Especially when you have small kids, because it feels like climbing a mountain to get out the door to go on a date. I mean, it's not easy to do this, but it's worth doing it. And there are times that when I left the house, I was so tired, but having a plan in place in that point makes the date so much better. So when we talk about ahead of time, okay, let's do this week, but we have very different interests. So what we do is we'll take turns planning the date. And I know
So
what
this
I
is
love
your
to do.
week, that's his week?
Yes,
Yeah.
and it sounds selfish, but actually I learn a lot about Brad when he plans the date and he's planning what we're doing, and I love doing something he wants to do, and he loves doing that for me as well. So I'll say, okay, tonight our friends are out of town. They've got a pool. We're going to go sit by their pool and have takeout and watch the sunset. And that's a whole lot more my speed. And his would be for me to ride in a golf cart and watch him play golf, which I enjoy. I can watch the sunset doing that. And we're having conversation and talking. But we take turns planning the date of what each other would like to do. I took him to a musical not long ago. It was torture for him.
It was hour and 50 minutes.
I just want to know, first of all, what was the name of the show? Do you know?
Do you remember?
I don't even remember. I just remember. I remember. I hated
Into the
it.
Woods.
Into the Woods. So literally,
How can you not remember that?
because it
it's
was
not even like an Italian.
it was so painful. I have a natural brain reaction that has blocked it from my memory. So it was at the hour and 50-minute mark. It got to an hour and 4. I said, well, good. At least it's not going to have an intermission. So at the hour and 50-minute mark, they stopped, and I was like, and I realized it was halftime.
Halftime.
I mean, it was intermission.
halftime.
Intermission.
So literally, I thought I'd like,
Endured.
I thought I would endured. No,
But it really was sweet. Him
The
sitting
thing
there,
about
but
Into the Woods, though, has such an well. Anyway, we won't get into
the highlight
drama
was
again,
the
but
highlight was my Twix bar.
I'm not going to go there. The question I have for you, Brad, is on a day that it's date night. If it's Tuesday, you're at lunch at noon or 1 o'clock. Are you already starting to think about date night? Because I know when I was dating my wife, 36, 37 years ago when we were dating, you just think, I can't wait to see her tonight. I can't wait to go. We're going to go do these things. And do you feel the same way now, all those years later?
I do, and there's power in anticipation. So if I think, wow, we're going to go down by the river and walk and have a cup of coffee and then go have an appetizer and watch this band, and it gives me something to look forward to, and it actually enhances the experience. There's a power in anticipation. And I totally agree with Marilyn about scheduling, because I'm a spontaneous guy, but when I work all day, run home, get there at 5:30, what do you want to do? It's not like I'm just firing with a million fun ideas.
Right.
I mean, I'm like, I don't know, what do you want to do? Where do you want? And then you get in this gap, and then people say, well, let's watch a movie, and then they spend 20 minutes trying to find a show, never find it, and just get frustrated and go to bed.
Right. Or they start a movie that they then both think is awful and didn't even get through it. Do you find yourself trying to outdo the other person? I mean, when you're planning these dates, I mean, is there a competitiveness that ever, because I think sometimes it's like, you know what, I'm going to be so intentional about what Marilyn wants to do. And then you think, well, I'm going to do so much about what it is. Can it escalate to that point? Is that a danger?
Well, when we plan it, it's pretty much what I want to do, and she goes along with me, and what she wants to do, and I go along with her. So it's kind of the purpose of choosing your own date is that we both do what we want to do with each other. And it's kind of a selfishness pass. Like when she picks the date, literally, I'm just along for the ride. She picks which car we ride in, what restaurant we go. She even orders. And one time,
because I get to eat his food on that date.
Because you ordered it.
But she, like one night after work, she said, I want to drive over to Newburgh, which has a beautiful riverfront. She said, I want to get in the Jeep, drive the Newburgh, and just walk along the river. I said, babe, I am so tired from work. I really don't want to drive the Newburgh. She goes, well, I don't care. It's my date. Yep. So
non-negotiable.
But we know, really, I don't feel like I'm being selfish, because he's going to do it the next week. And we really have learned a lot about loving each other better. You hit the mark better when you do this, but also there's so many different seasons you bring to dating. And cost, when we were first married, we didn't have money to spend. We're building a law practice, and so we traded babysitting with another family.
Well, that was my next question, is if you've got, you're in the same situation as another family that's got 6-year-old and 8-year-old, and you've got a 6 and a 3, do you trade that kind of stuff?
Yes,
do you say,
we
hey,
did
listen,
that
drop
for
your kids at our
years.
place. It's our date night. Will you do that for us on Thursday when we go out? I mean, you do that?
We did a Tuesday, Thursday switch, and literally we would just brew a pot of coffee, put it in a thermos, go to the river and sit and drink coffee and walk up. And I mean, our total day costs about $1.80. I mean, we're actually less than that because I'm a Folgers man.
Yeah.
So he's the budget man.
But
yes,
that's
so you
okay.
yes.
Right.
And it's a great way to do it because babysitting, I mean, that's an huge expense. So then you tack onto that dinner or an activity. You're over $100 before you're out the door.
And the barrier of dating is people don't feel it makes a difference. You know, what it is, it's the cumulative spending time together of a long period of time. It's like exercising. If you don't exercise and you go exercise, are you going to be a lot more healthy?
You'll be sore the next day.
Or you can be more
and
healthy.
quit.
Yeah. But if you do that consistently for 2 years, you're going to be much more healthy. And the same thing's true with dating. So sometimes when you date, it doesn't feel like it makes any difference. It doesn't feel like it was that fun. You fought of the date. We had a stretch of dating where Marilyn was really sad and depressed that she cried every date. She'd hold together in front of our kids. As soon as we sit down on our date, boom, she just starts sobbing. But we committed that our marriage is worthy of our time. It's worthy of our investment, and we are going to do it. We're going to do it in rainy seasons, sunny seasons, happy seasons. It hasn't been easy, but we do not regret it.
And I say a bad date is better than no date at all. It is. You know, even if you have a bad date, you're pursuing each other. You're blocking it. You're setting aside time. You're showing each other you're important to me. So even if it's a bad date, don't get upset about
If you
it.
didn't have a bad one, wouldn't know what a good one is.
That's right.
So you lead these groups. Will you go around the table and say, did y'all date this last quarter? I mean, is there an accountability as you go through this?
There is one. They break away individually as a couple, and they plan their dates together, and they block off time for one another. Then they come back and hold each other accountable as a group, and recognizing that, well, one, it's easier to date every week than to try to date 4 out of 5 weeks. So if we can get couples on a rhythm where this is just what we do, it's part of our, it's part of our just rhythms in life. That's what we're shooting for.
Yeah. Or at the very least, every other. Some people that trade out dating, it might be a Monday night and this Monday they go, the next Monday, the next one goes. But at the very least, every other week. If it's not a pattern, you're not going to do it. Couples we talk to, they're either dating a lot or not at all. They wait till they're in a horrible spot before they go on a date.
Yeah, they feel disconnected and isolated. Man, we really need a date. And date doesn't need to be a prescriptive thing to fix a problem. It needs to be a rhythm thing to enjoy a gift, and that's marriage.
Do people look at you, funny is the wrong word, but if you say to somebody, we're going on our date tonight, do people kind of look at you and say, oh, that's cute? Or, do you get sort of a pejorative look sometimes of or do you get people saying, what do you mean you're going on a date? What's the reaction from people when you say that?
People do. They're surprised, and it's encouraging to people when they see that we are. And I think it's contagious. If you start dating your spouse, you're going to encourage others to do the same. So I think some people are surprised, some people are encouraged, but this is something that all of us can do. I mean, every couple out there, you can do this.
It depends on the context. Like at our church, by God's kindness, marriage investments become a lot more standard.
But people know that that's sort of the norm,
It's
right?
kind of the thing.
Yeah.
So what we're shooting for is this is the norm, that you stand out if you don't do it.
Yeah.
That, why is it such a revolutionary concept to spend 3 to 4 hours with your spouse once a week? I mean, my goodness, you're asking for marriage, 3 to 4 hours a week, just the two of you together. If that's a really big ask, we've got a bigger problem.
Right. How do your kids respond as they grow up? Because you told me something, and when we talked on the phone several months back about how your daughter, who's now married, says the first 6 months of being married were just bliss, and that they're still dating, and that they don't feel like a lot has changed in that. I mean, it's got to be really inspirational to you as a mom to hear your daughter say that, as a dad to hear your daughter and your son-in-law talk that way. I mean, that's got to make you feel like this is the right thing to do. And it reinforces that, doesn't it?
It does. And it's really encouraged. But when they were little, they all complained about it.
They did?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Because
you're going
you
on a
weren't
date
there?
again because we weren't there. We were leaving them with a sitter, and that we weren't maybe going to be at one of their sporting events. But that's okay to miss that. So they would complain and be like, look, this is the best thing I can do is love your dad well.
Yeah.
And him love me well. So they hear that from us, and they know it's coming. They know we're having dates, but
Yeah.
every now and then you'll have one complain about it.
And we would say like we'll be home at 9. If it's 9:01, we had one of them that we had 5 missed calls before 9:01.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, so
Yeah.
it varies on kids. You know, some
Right.
kids are better at complaining than others. We have one that's like it's very like uniquely gifted from God in that area.
So the issue of dating, while it has been around for a very, very long time, is critically important for the health of our marriages as well. So if you want to know more about this, check out gracemarriage.com, because, you know, your marriage was indeed meant for more. And if you want to learn more about it, make sure you come back next week. And also, please tell other people about this. The only way that we're going to be able to change the attitudes about marriage is for people to open their eyes and to start opening their ears too, to listen, to be inspired by people like Brad and Marilyn, other people in your church, other mentors that you know. And you know what? We can make having a great marriage the norm and not the exception. We will see you next week right back here on the Grace Marriage Podcast.
Thank you for joining us on the Grace Marriage Podcast. We really hope you're feeling inspired to take intentional steps to grow in your marriage.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us spread the message of grace and reach even more couples.
And if you have a moment, please leave us a review. Your feedback means a lot to us and helps others discover the podcast.
To learn more about how you can grow in your marriage, visit us at gracemarriage.com. Keep building stronger, grace-filled marriages.
We'll see you next week on the Grace Marriage Podcast. Until then, keep growing in grace.